Happy Week 12, Heat Seekers. We are back with your tight end tiers. Let's see if we can help get you some victories this Thanksgiving week. It's a much smaller tier this week than we've seen recently, although it's never really a huge tier just because of the way the tight end position in fantasy runs. But how do you feel about these three guys matchup? Kittle's been up and down throughout the season. Do you feel good about this?
Yeah, I mean, this feels right. Travis Kelce, is on bye, so he's not going to be in here, of course. Pitts is the guy. Pitts and Gronk are the two, if Gronk ends up playing, are the two that have vacillated back and forth from being in this tier and not for most of the season. Pitts, unfortunately, has really been hurt by the lack of production that offense has had, especially since Calvin Ridley went down. And Gronk, yeah, when he's on the field, he's great and he always has that chance. But just with those nagging injuries when he comes back, are they even really going to be using him that much? Because clearly they want to have him for the playoffs, and it makes more sense to just save him for when you're going to need him being a playoff team. So we're going to be talking to them in the next tier, but I think these three, with the volume they've been getting and the way they've been used, are the safest.
I would agree. As we get to fantasy playoffs, you want safe plays, and these guys feel very safe. You will see a name that hasn't been on here in a while, and that's Logan Thomas. Reports are, as of this recording, is he's come back from IR, going to practice with the team, and probably potentially going to play in this weekend's contest. Keep an eye on the IR report and injury report and see if he progresses well throughout the week in practice. The way that we have these guys lined up is how we would play them in terms of where we would have them, but definitely keep an eye out on things like that for injury reports for some of these guys. Our tight end one overall and tight end one, I mean, these kind of are no-brainers at this point. These are all guys very heavily involved in their offenses or have been producing at a pretty high level. Is there any concerns for any of these guys with you, Kraig?
Yeah, I mean, you always run into potential. Some of these guys, Hawkinson and Arnold in back-to-back weeks, not the same week for him, but had goose eggs laid for him just that people were not expecting. Adam Troutman only recently has been starting to get more involved, coinciding with taking over Trevor Siemian and that offense leveling out to where it's at without a whole lot to do with the wide receivers. Some of these guys have really good matchups. Dalton Schultz is going against the Raiders on Thursday night, and especially with the injuries that they have with the wide receiver core. Vegas already gives up a lot of points to tight ends. I think it's like the second most. Fant against the Chargers. Chargers give top 5 in points allowed to opposing tight ends. So those guys really have a great chance to do a lot. And then you have a guy like Dallas Goedert who just got a big extension. People are really high on him, and I think for good reason, but that offense right now is just not throwing the ball a whole lot. They're not having to. They've seemingly had an epiphany that, hey, we just need to be a running team, and it's working for them. So, I think that kind of caps the upside that otherwise may be there. A guy that people really like as of late, Freiermuth, he doesn't have a great matchup, but he's been involved, and Ben clearly is looking to him and has his trust. So
absolutely.
It is a nice tier overall, and I think you're probably going to see one or two guys in this just lay another complete goose egg out of nowhere, because it seems like someone does it every week that you thought you had trust.
Yeah, it's hard. With tight end, it seems to be such an up and down position in fantasy, and this year seems to be just as bad as any other, if not more. This is very much if you don't have any other options, I would say that probably this is also the order you could play if you needed to. In desperation, put a tight end in. If you don't have any of the guys in tight end one or tight end one overall tier, Cole come out against the Lions. If Andy Dalton's quarterback, he looks a little bit more towards a tight end than Justin Fields at least has so far. Is there a safer play in your mind?
So Jared Cook's had, I think it's at least 4 targets in 7 out of 10 games this year. In an offense that we see just the other night against the Steelers, definitely has that potential to just blow up at any time, blow up, so to speak, but he has that opportunity. So certainly him. To your point about Ricky Seals-Jones, O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate are really only guys you want to talk about if Gronk doesn't play. Of course, if Gronk ends up playing, you really don't feel safe. I know just talked about, we don't know how much Gronk will play and all that. If he does play, I would have a really hard time playing Howard or Brate, assuming that they're going to do anything. Swaim and Firkser, if one plays. If Swaim plays, you can't play Firkser, because we had seen that before Swaim got that concussion. He was the main guy. Firkser had a snap count highly reduced. Swaim was out with a concussion this past week, and Firkser had a really nice game. And I think that's how they're using those two. So, again, I wouldn't be looking to use Firkser if Swaim does end up playing. But if Swaim, I think you're in a nice position there. Conklin gets targets each week. You're getting a few guaranteed eyeballs towards him. And the rest of them, I'm not overly excited about. We had our 3-week spurt of CJ Uzoma, 3 or 4 week usefulness, and he hasn't done anything since then. for the most part. The past 3 weeks, he's got 33, 24, and 9 yards without a touchdown. That's the tight end landscape in a nutshell for you folks.
Definitely check the injury report for some of these guys that are either just back from injury or coming back from injury to see how things are going for them for sure. As always, comment below if you got questions. Discord, Facebook, Twitter, you can hit us up wherever. We are always here to help do the best we can. With that being said, hopefully you guys have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy some quality family time and some quality football time. And we'll talk to you guys again next week.